This is Matt. This is Mental Model Monday number 14. Today we're going to talk about non-predictive control. That is, when you don't know what's going to happen next, how do you choose the best course of action? How do you operate in an environment of that sort of uncertainty? So before you talk about that, we need to elucidate one way to break down risks, the three types of risk that I'm going to go over right now. So the first type we'll talk about is certain risk. And this is represented here by a bag where that's clear, where you can see exactly the balls that are in it. Now, as long as I know how much the green, the red, and the blue are worth, then I know exactly which ball to bet on to make the right decision, because I know how many balls there are. And I can make a simple expected value calculation of the value of the balls multiplied by the probability of getting the ball, and that tells me which ball to take. So traditional business planning would be assuming that you're in a certain risk environment. So you sort of know exactly what to do. You just need to create a plan that's going to consistently say red if that's the one that has the highest expected value. The second type of risk is uncertain risk. And so this is represented by a ball where I know there's red, green, a bag where I know there's red, green, and blue balls in it, but I don't know how many of each one. So what I'm going to try and do is use sampling. I'm going to start pulling a few balls out, making some small bets or zero, no bet, just zero money. Start trying to pull balls out. And as I start pulling balls out, I start to get a sense of the distribution. And once I've done that, I can go back to the planning strategy of the certain risk. So this would be, in the business world, the lean startup techniques and the customer development techniques, where you're running small experiments with your business, you're making small bets, you're talking to customers to get a sense of the distribution of where the expected value is, and then you move forward and create your company. Finally, there's nightly uncertain risk. The idea here is that you don't know what color balls are in the bag. You don't even know it's balls or hubcaps, and it's actually changing as you're even as you're working with it. The distribution is changing all the time, based on actions of other actors, and so these other strategies don't work in a situation where you don't know what's in there, and it's changing as you go. So the idea here is to use the strategies that we're about to talk about to deal with this, to not try to predict anything, but still come out ahead. So let's talk about how to do that. So there's two complementary strategies that I know of for how to deal with this nightly and uncertain risk. The first one is antifragility. This idea comes from Nassim Taleb. The idea is that you're going to build a system or organization that that actually gains from this disorder, that gains from the fact that you don't know the certainty, rather than the reverse. Hence, anti-fragile. Fragile is disorder is really bad for it. Anti-fragile is disorder is really good for it. Right? Then you have like robustness, where it's sort of in between. But anti-fragile is really the only good long-term strategy. There's two ways to be anti-fragile. First one is taking advantage of natural selection. So if your system or organization is sufficiently diversifying its strategies, in a real way, sort of not diversifying along one category, like diversifying your investments, but truly diversifying its strategies, shooting out variations on the things you're working on, and then seeing what survives. Then no matter the volatility of the market, you'll hopefully, as long as you're having enough variations, you'll have a few that survive, and you'll be anti-fragile. In fact, what's left is going to be the best, because it's what can handle everything that was thrown at you. That's why it's anti-fragile. The other way to deal with it is hormesis. Hormesis is the idea of using adversity or stress to grow. So your muscles are hormetic. As you put strain on them, they actually grow to handle that strain. So building in mechanisms into your organizations and into your people, where actually you use the things that come at you to learn, to grow, to become better, is the other way to be anti-fragile. So, if you remember back to the congruency episode, we talked about masculine and feminine congruency, right? Masculine congruency going towards a goal. Feminine congruency, no matter what's thrown at you, you maintain and move on. Antifragility is clearly the femininely congruent response to Knightian uncertain risk. Now, the masculine congruent response would be something called effectuation. This is by a guy called Saras Sarthvasi, invented this technique. And the basic idea behind effectuation is that rather than do what antifragility does, where no matter the distribution, no matter what's in the bag, you're okay, you're gonna, in effectuation, you're actually gonna pour shit into the bag that works out in your favor. So the basic idea behind effectuation is you start out with what you already have. Who do you know? What are your strengths? And what are your resources? Now, based on that, you can come up with a number of goals that make sense with that. And you're going to select only those goals that you can afford to fail on. Because even with stacking the deck in your favor, you're not guaranteed success. And you need to be able to do this a few times. So you're going to use the affordable loss principle. Okay? So now once you've selected those goals that match with the color balls you have, so you can pour those balls into the bag and then follow the goals that select those balls out, you're going to take those people you already know and you're going to use them to create commitments with them. You're going to create partnerships. And that's going to do two things. One is it's going to constrain the possibilities for your organization. So it's going to make the goals more concrete. But at the same time, it's going to give you more resources. It's going to give you more strength. It's going to give you more resources. It's going to give you a bigger network to work with. So you're constraining what the organization is as you are broadening what the organization can do. And then you start this process again, and you go through and you make more and more commitments, creating your market until you have a company. And there's obvious parallels here to the recursive congruency process we talked about in the congruency episode. So again, the idea here versus antifragility, where you're, no matter what the distribution, you're good. Here, you're figuring out what balls do I have on my person. I'm going to dump the right color into the bag, and then I'm going to pull it out. Magic. And both of these two processes I recommend, again, together. You don't just choose masculine or feminine. You don't just choose antifragility or effectuation. Usually you're going to be on some continuum, depending on your own proclivities. But please play around with these processes and use them for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Talk to you soon.